And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gents. This is by Casanova for Orlando, Florida, on this awesome and international podcast, Good Wine and Great Laughs, the podcast for wine lovers, ladies and gents, summer movies, reviews, and hot topic discussions, ladies and gents. I'm your host, Casanova, here from Orlando, Florida. Every Saturday morning at 10 a.m., I have the wine of the day, ladies and gents, followed by the topic of the day. The topic of the day is always some topics that can affect our life directly or indirectly. And during the summer months of June and July, I take a break from hot topics and I do summer movies reviews. I go to movie theaters and whatever new movies that show up on Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all those apps that I think I like, I will like it. I'll watch it and then I give you my review about the movies. All right. So if you like wine, if you like hot topic discussions and summer movies reviews, this YouTube channel is for you. If you like the work that I do, ladies and gents, I ask only for 3 simple things. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Click on the like button of any video that you watch it and like it, and share those videos with at least 5 people you know. I appreciate your support, ladies and gents. So today is excuse me, is Saturday, January 31st, 2026. And the weather here in Orlando is going to be partly cloudy and in the morning and windy in the afternoon. Highs of 58 and lows of 25 degrees. Floridians are going to be dying this weekend, especially on Sunday morning. It's supposed to be really, really, really cold up here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before I start talking about the topic of the day, I got to talk about the wine of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, I have another wine from PINTA, NEGRA, means black dot, from Portugal. I have a red wine. First of all, now I got a rosé right here for you guys. You can see the label right there. Okie dokie. PINTA NEGRA is from Lisbon, Portugal, vintage of 2023. Alcohol percent of this wine is 12.5. And it says right here, this rosé is made from Aragonés and Castellón variety. Is an intense and refreshing wine, perfect for summer afternoons. There is no recommendation as far pairing as concerned, ladies and gents. Once again, it's a product of Portugal, and alcohol percentage is 12.5, vintage of 2023. All right. So the first one that I had, I like it. So let's see what is this rosé for PINTA NEGRA is all about. And also later on in this month, I do have a white one that I got, and more likely I will have these here in February, ladies and gents. February. Definitely love the bouquet of this wine. Ladies and gents, to be honest with you, even though the labels say all this good stuff, I will give a 7 for this wine. It's because in my palate, it's very refreshing, but I have a taste of a little bit bitterness taste in the back of my palate. And I'm not a fan of wine like that. I'm not saying the wine is bad. You may like it that. Personally, I'll give a 7 for this one right here. The red one from PINTA NEGRA, for me, was better than this rosé right here. But like I said, I'm not bashing. It's terrible. It's not a terrible one. Because if it was terrible, I would tell you, ladies and gents. I would tell you. Okay? Pour a little bit more right here. Because, excuse me, the wine went right there. I'm not going to waste this wine. All right, ladies and gents. I was working on it to start, even though today is the last Saturday of January, I was about to start with the Black History Month podcast episodes related to a lot of great Black people that contribute to society some way in different forms. But I got home yesterday from work. When I turned the TV on, the first thing that I saw is Don Lemon was arrested. I said, what? So, ladies and gents, that's why now I gotta talk about these. So the episode today for season 12, episode 4, is Don Lemon and other Black journalists arrested by Trump's DOJ. And I've talked, ladies and gents, it is showtime. Oh, before showtime, I have to give credit to the Native Land Pod. That's the video that I'm going to watch today, all right? And at the end of the video, like I always do, I'll give you my 2 cents about what I think about the topic of the day. Remix, quick. It is showtime.
Welcome home, y'all. There is breaking news today, as we have just been told that Don Lemon was arrested, and last night, covering the Grammys, by the way. And so was Georgia Fort, who's become a dear friend to us, has been wonderful on this show. As you all know, Georgia Fort joined me just last Tuesday for a solo pod talking about the threat of arrest, talking about everything that was going on the ground in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Today, Georgia Fort was served with an arrest warrant where they claimed, emphasis on claimed, that there was a grand jury impaneled. She was charged with both the FACE Act and the KKK Act of 1871. For those of you who have been watching, you know what we have to say about the KKK Act of 1871. For those of you who have not been following, we will get into that today. But before we get any deeper, joining us right now is this tremendous constitutional law expert, a commentator, and a columnist for The Nation. He is a friend to this show. Elie Mystal, please tell us what in the world is going on.
Yeah, there's no point of having constitutional expertise because nothing happening right now is constitutional, right? The white supremacists running this government do not care about the Constitution. It's not clear that they've read the Constitution, and they certainly don't understand the Constitution, because arresting journalists is unconstitutional 101, right? It's right in the very first amendment to the Constitution that the freedom of the press shall not be abridged. Don Lemon, Georgia Fort were covering a protest. They were doing journalism. You can't arrest people for doing journalism. Again, that's the First Amendment of the Constitution. So not only are these arrests unconstitutional, plainly, blatantly, obviously unconstitutional, they're also plainly illegal, right? And the difference there is that the Trump administration went to a federal magistrate judge in Minnesota asking for an arrest warrant for Don Lemon. And the judge told them no. The judge said there was no probable cause for an arrest warrant. So then they appealed that ruling, and they went up to an appellate court, and the appellate court said, no, there's no probable cause for an arrest warrant. And they arrested him anyway. So that's illegal, right? Now, Pam Bondi or Trump people have now come out and said, like, we had a grand jury impaneled, and they issued the arrest warrant for Lemon and Fort. Well, first of all, going to a federal grand jury to get an arrest warrant that you couldn't get from the state court is weird, is highly unusual, A, and B, they haven't said that they impaneled the grand jury for the other two people, the activists they arrested, Cruz and Lundy, right? So we don't even know what the legal justification is for arresting those other two people. And then you have to be like, what was this grand jury? Like, what was this grand jury? How did that process work if what we're talking about is a blatantly unconstitutional arrest in the first place, right? So the whole thing is fakafka, right? To use a Yiddishism, like it is an expression of white supremacy. And so when I look for constitutional justification for these arrests, it's obviously not in the Constitution. It's obviously not in the Constitution anymore. Because there was something in the original Constitution that would have allowed them to arrest a black journalist like Don Lemon. And that was called the Fugitive Slave Clause in Article 4 of the original Constitution, which allowed the government to reclaim escaped property should that property have successfully made it to a free state. And the reason why the Fugitive Slave Clause is, absolutely relevant to what's happening to Lemon right now is that you have to understand what the Fugitive Slave Clause was meant to counteract, right? And the Fugitive Slave Clause counteracts the 10th Amendment, right? The 10th Amendment says explicitly that the police power is reserved to the states. I'm sure, Angela, Andrew, you have heard talking about states' rights, right? States' rights is why I get this. States' rights is why I get that, right? Well, states' rights is in the Constitution, right? It's the 10th Amendment. What part of states' rights is that states have the rights to police themselves. States have the right to determine for themselves who is to get arrested and who is not to get arrested. The Fugitive Slave Clause superseded states' rights, right? Minnesota could say, no, we're not going to arrest fugitive slaves. But the Fugitive Slave Act says, no, actually, we have to. The federal government can supersede states' rights and arrest whoever they want as long as they're black. Yeah. And that's what's happening to Lemon. He's getting arrested because he's black, and the federal government is ignoring states' rights, is ignoring a federal magistrate, is ignoring a federal appeals court to arrest a black man. It is a new story, but actually it's a pretty old story.
Yeah. Ellie, can I ask you real quick? So we know that they are using a prosecutor out of somewhere to pursue a case in Georgia around elections. Supposedly, we don't know a whole bunch about that. I'm curious, in the impaneling of a grand jury, would they have had to impanel this grand jury in the state of Minnesota, or could this grand jury be anywhere America?
It could be anywhere America, right? Like, again, they're not telling us what they did and how they did it, but the thought here is that you get a willing AUSA, Assistant Attorney General, who's like, I will bring an unconstitutional, and we know they have them. I mean, Lisa, I always call her Miss Hannigan. Lisa Halligan, Lindsay Halligan, has been beclowning herself all across the country. So you find a Lindsay Halligan type. They say that they have a claim under the Klan Act, under the FACE Act, or the perversion of those acts that the Trump administration is using to arrest Lemon. And then you impanel the grand jury in the state where you found this fascist prosecutor, right? Like, so we don't know that it has to be in Minnesota. It could have been in Minnesota, but it could have not been in Minnesota. And the grand jury process is a black box. Like, we're not supposed to know what goes into it. The testimony is supposed to be sealed. Now, you can get in trouble when you lie to the grand jury. Yeah. And I would imagine
not everybody. Prosecutors don't get in trouble for lying to the grand jury.
You're supposed to get in trouble for lying to the grand jury. And again, I don't see how you can get this arrest warrant out without lies, because you have to proactively not tell the grand jury that what you're asking for is blatantly unconstitutional. So I don't know how you do that. But Andrew, you're right. We know that those prosecutors probably will not be held accountable because we live in a feckless country that doesn't hold any white supremacists accountable for their actions.
I want to just thank you, Ellie. I know that you have a deadline, a writing deadline, so I really appreciate you coming on. We're going to back into now this story. Some of you may still be floored learning that Don Lemon was arrested last night covering the Grammys about the alleged actions he took in Minnesota, which were merely covering a protest, but somehow now that is criminal conduct in Trump's America. Also getting into Georgia Fort, who is an Emmy Award-winning journalist in Minnesota, has been on the ground every single day, and we will run her Facebook Live where she was detained this morning from her home in front of her children. So, Ellie, thank you so much for what you're doing. You know, I can't wait to read what you put out. We love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and run the clip, Andrew, if you don't mind, of Georgia Fort being arrested this morning.
I wanted to alert the public that agents are at my door right now. They're saying that they were able to go before a grand jury sometime, I guess, in the last 24 hours, and that they have a warrant for my arrest. I've talked to my attorney, and I'm being advised to go with them, I guess, down to Whipple. And my children are here. They're impacted by this. This is all stemming from the fact that I filmed a protest as a member of the media. We are supposed to have our constitutional right of the freedom to film, to be a member of the press. I don't feel like I have my First Amendment right as a member of the press, because now federal agents are at my door arresting me for filming the church protest a few weeks ago. Again, I don't have a long time here, you guys, but I wanted you to know, for me, agents are at my door right now. My attorney has spoken with them. I did send a relative outside to talk to them. They're showing some type of documentation, apparently, that they got an indictment from a grand jury. I knew that I was on a defendant's list. I did not publish it because it was under seal.
I'm floored by that, Andrew. You know, this is someone who was with us on stage just 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Well, Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know, in that moment, Georgia showed the courage that she always has, and she is reporting what's happening on the ground and putting her life on the line. She said when she was on the podcast, the solo pod with me the week before, so literally back-to-back weeks we've had Georgia on, she talked about Ida B. Wells being her inspiration. And of course, the very next day we had Don Lemon on as a guest co-host. And so to see people who are our colleagues, who become kind of chosen family, put in harm's way for doing the thing they do so well is mind-blowing. So I wanted to take just a moment. Well, one, Andrew, I want you to react to the clip, because I see you're so emotional.
Yeah. You know, I have PTSD from, I know what it is to surrender yourself to the government. And even when you have right on your side, it's hard. And I heard her family members emotional in the background, right? I think in the long run, y'all, we're going to fight and we're going to win. We will win. Don and Georgia, and I think the other activists who have been arrested, who also, and I know we're not focusing so much in on those individual stories, but who I also believe were exercising their constitutional rights. But the fight is going to be real. And for them individually, because I have had federal, agents show up at my house, and I know what it was like to have my ankles chained and my arms cuffed, and that never leaves you, right? And so I think what I'm emotionally reacting to, one, is just it threw me back to that instance. But I also know, as these folks stand in their truth and in their innocence, that these are moments that they will never forget. The impact here is real. It's deep. It's cutting. It's frightening. And I have to imagine that it's even the fright of this is amplified by the fact that you have a lawless president and a lawless attorney general and a bunch of stooges who work beneath them who are more than happy to carry out their unlawful wishes with joy, right? The truth is, Angela, is that both Don, who was arrested in the late night, Georgia, in her case, early morning, Don, I believe, is overnighted in jail. These law enforcement folks had the opportunity, had they wanted, to schedule those folks to come in and see them. They could have told them in advance that that there's an indictment for them and that they must surrender themselves. They could have offered that opportunity. They didn't do that. And what that underscores for me is the theater of it.
Yeah.
What these folks want, they want the theater. They want us to be shaken by what we saw.
I agree.
I'm shaken from having had my own experience, but like them, not bowed. And not running the opposite direction. Like you said, we were just there this week. And we know that as we talk and as we move, that we are at risk as well.
Yeah.
But you know what? So what?
Yeah.
Because the absence of, we're at risk anyway.
That's right.
We're at risk anyway.
And speaking of that risk, Andrew, there's a gentleman by the name of Eli Darris who runs the Minnesota Freedom Fund. He had this to say earlier on a Facebook Live. Eli also joined us this week in Minneapolis.
Georgia Ford and Don Lemon were both arrested for filming a church protest. So now we're responding with handcuffs to cameras. Now, the so-called free press is under direct assault, as you would see in any totalitarian government. In fact, media is the first entity that a totalitarian regime goes after to silence dissent, to silence questioning, to silence people being able to hold governmental officials accountable. It is unconscionable what we witnessed today. It is a direct assault against the Constitution. It is a direct assault against basic pillars that we all have come to just accept as life. The press has a freedom to film and to record. The people have the freedom to film and record. And the moment that becomes under attack, nothing is safe. You're not safe in California. You're not safe down there in Florida. You're not safe down there in Texas. You're not safe over there in New England. Ain't none of y'all safe if we're not safe here in Minnesota. This is a direct assault. Every last single one of you should be outraged, should be incensed at the attacks on basic liberties. You have to have a warrant. You cannot stop someone and ask them questions without reasonable, articulable suspicion. You can't use force unjustifiably. You cannot attack our press. You can't shoot munitions at them. You can't shoot rubber bullets at them. And now today you cannot arrest them. And yet what we're seeing is the eroding of basic principles that have been foundational to the way that we have expected to live life here in America. Everybody is waking up to a reality that many of us in the African American community have known for a very long time. And now we're trying to fight to once again save this democracy. It's not a Minnesota thing. This is a us thing.
Well said.
I was talking and you couldn't hear me. I'm sorry. That was me, AG. I was like, well, joining us now is the executive director of Minnesota Freedom Fund, Eli Darris, as well as the Honorable Zainab Muhammad, who is a Minnesota state senator, joining us as well. Thank you both for being here. Of course, there was just a press conference at Minneapolis's City Hall about the arrest of Georgia Ford, Trey Cruz, and Jamel Lundy. My apologies. I want to know what you all's reaction is to that presser and to these arrests, these very unlawful and unconstitutional arrests. And Senator, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful that community is organizing in such a quick way to do a press conference. We all got the call this morning. I think many of us who've worked with Georgia, I worked with Georgia and Eli. I think we were on the ground all of 2020, and Georgia is, what's happening to Georgia and Don is horrible, but it's also like what is happening across the country, which is an attack on freedom of press. It's ensuring that people only tell one narrative. But what we know about Georgia, those of us who know her personally, is she's a mom, first and foremost, who cares deeply about her family. And she's somebody who is an honest truth teller. She has been on the ground for communities, for the movement. And it's not in a point where she agrees or not. It's telling the truth of what's happening, the facts on the ground and what people are experiencing. I think for many of us, we're like blindsided by this, but not shocked. We have been seeing the attacks in the community, but the deliberate attack on press who's there to report a story or a news for doing their job is beneath any administration, and certainly beneath the job that they're supposed to do. I talked to Georgia last week. I talked to her the other day when we were all together too. But when Nakima got arrested, she was very shaken up. And we talked a little bit about just like how she's feeling as a person, and the fact that she was worried about her family. Because I think very often when we tell these stories of what's happening to the individual, it becomes a story, but we forget the fact that this woman has young kids, young children, and a husband, and they expect her to come home at the end of the day when she goes out there and puts her life on the line. I'm worried about them, but I know she has a lot of grit and she's a very strong person. But we're all going to be out there fighting for her, as she's been doing for communities for a long time.
Absolutely. And Eli, I want to come to you. Thankfully, you knew that this was coming. Minnesota Freedom Fund has been set up to be a bailout resource to folks who have been arrested today, as well as to so many others. Can you talk about what you're feeling right now? Your live earlier was very powerful, calling on all of us to save democracy. But for those who still feel like it has not yet knocked on their front door, what's the wake-up call to those folks?
Good morning to you both, and good morning, Senator Zaya. It was actually not a good morning. It's not a good morning at all. I don't know what the wake up call is going to be for them. It will probably be the knocking on their doors. Here in Minnesota, we're on the front lines of all of this, and as an organizer, as an activist. I've been tear gassed. I've been shot with rubber bullets. Before the senator became one of the great senators here in Minnesota, she and I were both on the front lines. Those type of tactics come with the territory. They are expected. We have a role and a position that we're pushing, and state has a role and a position that is pushing, and it uses violence oftentimes to push its position, and we resist that. And oftentimes what we see is media, they're recording, documenting, both sides of what's happening, so that the public can have an opportunity to see what is, happening on the ground, and then arrive at their own conclusion. During the uprising, in which we were fighting for justice for George Floyd, who was murdered here by the Minneapolis Police Department. What we started to see, and at the time I worked for the ACLU of Minnesota, and what we were seeing was a deliberate and an intentional targeting of media. To such a tune that our organization at the ACLU, we had to put a lawsuit in order to get retribution and to stop the targeting of media who was there to do a job. Georgia Ford was in a very comfortable and acclaimed role inside of media. And, because of what she was witnessing, she realized that she needed to step back, step out, and to take the risk of beginning to bring stories that were underreported or completely unreported. And she has been able to bring out some of the darkest, most harrowing tales that never would have seen the light of day at all, that never would have been given voice at all. And to Senator Zaidam's point, she has always brought those stories out in a fair and unbiased kind of way. And so to wake up today to see those demons go to her house with her sleeping babies and to drag her out, and yet for some reason we can't muster up the courage to put handcuffs on actual killer cops that have killed multiple of our community members just in the past few weeks, you all, weeks. It just goes beyond my comprehension. This federal government, this lawless regime is pushing its agenda with strength and with vigor. And my frustration, and I'm sorry, let me rein it in. My frustration is that, we can't muster the courage and the ability to send the counter messages to a lawless regime, whereas we have the authority to arrest if we believe a crime has been committed against one of our community members, and we haven't done it. And yet this regime is sending out law enforcement to arrest reporters, to arrest peaceful protesters. So do we have a separation of church and state or not? I'm really trying to understand what is happening here, because we had a minister stand up and challenge another minister inside of a church.
Yeah.
And to say, I don't believe this is right, what you were doing. And we had reporters capture the interchange, and I've seen both reporters, Don Lemon and Georgia Ford, give equal opportunity to everyone to voice what their perspective was and what their views was in terms of the protest that was happening. And so, yeah, I'm just I've waken up to some really horrible news. I'm truly incensed at the crumbling of this democracy before our eyes. It's almost like the 1930s didn't happen at all.
I want to, it's such a profound point. And Eli, I could hear you speak all day on this. You are the clarion call that we need in this hour. So thank you for all that you're sharing. Andrew, I was just going to say that right now, Dr. Resma Menakem has joined us. Dr. Resma Menakem is a licensed psychotherapist and also trauma expert. And he has spent a lot of his time in Minnesota trying to heal the land, and yet the terror comes back. And so, Resma, I'd love to hear from you in this moment. And I also want to bring up right after that, Attorney Leslie Redmond, who was streaming the press conference in Minneapolis City Hall live just moments ago. So we want to hear from her, get her reactions. And as you all have to drop up, you can throw up peace signs. We know it's a busy day. We know you got constituents. Senator Eli, I know you are on paternity leave and cannot leave the city alone because the city won't leave the people alone. So thank you for pulling double duty. Dr. Resma Menakem.
Hey, sisters. First of all, I just got to say my heart is broken right now. This sister, Georgia, has been doing this work for our people here in this city for a very long time. We count on her to be in places that we can't be, to show us what's actually going on, not what they're telling us is going on. And to to watch her have to deal with that and having these terrorists at her front door and hearing her babies cry in the back, this is what I said the other day, if anybody's trying to take your anger and mold it into something that's usable for them, you have to reject that. We have to understand that what's happening to us right now will not go away because we're nice.
Mm.
Yeah. Have to understand that the only way forward for us is to be unpermissioned and ungovernable.
Mm.
Part of the way that they keep doing this shit to us is that we are too governable. We are too permissioned. We have to stop asking for permission to do things. And we have to just do them with each other, make the mistakes, not like each other, come back, tend to each other, do all the things that human beings do in order to birth a future that tends to us, not to them, not to these, not to the. Listen, this at the same time that this governor and this mayor here are talking about, they have contacted the federal government. They had a good conversation with this brutal dictator. At the same time, they are right now figuring out if they can open up Fort Snelling so they can house more ICE agents there. Pete Hegseth is right now has petitioned the Department of War to see if they can get that open. Why would they do that if they're really pulling out ICE agents?
Yeah.
If they're really pulling out ICE agents, why would they do that? Because they're selling you one thing in order for you to go to sleep. This is what I've been saying. The fact is that these folks want you to believe something that absolutely your body knows is not true. Mm-hmm. Everybody who's jumping up and down every time they think ICE is going to leave and like they want. This is what I'm fearing. What I'm fearing is that all of these white folks and all of these people that think that this is about an episodic battle.
Mm-hmm.
And when 4 ICE agents leave, we jump up and down and we forget, and we don't understand that this is not an episode, it's structural. And that we are not conditioned for the long haul. The things that we're doing it right now in terms of our ability to be mutually care for each other and develop mutual aid, that's the life we have to craft. That is not just responding to what ICE is doing or what Trump is doing. We need to craft a different way of being with each other. So that's where I'm at right now. If we think we're going to get out of this shit alive, we're thinking about this the wrong way. We're not going. This is the beginning of what they're getting ready to do. And if you don't understand that, I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to say if you're not talking with each other, if you don't have a plan with each other, if you don't know what self-defense is, if you don't know how to develop ways of watching and caring for each other and making sure we keep receipts for all of these folks. If you don't know how to do that, and when they come knocking at your door, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. I want to say, Resmaa, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, we would not have been able to be on the ground in Minneapolis earlier this week. And we did not know that was merely a time to prepare us for what was coming next. I remember asking you, what you would say to us for about where do we go from here? And rightfully so, it was almost a loving rebuke. You were like, we need to sit right here in this rage. And you're right, because we have to keep moving to that point. Somebody who always keeps moving is attorney Leslie Redmond, who just finished streaming live. The Minneapolis City Hall press conference is on her way to the rally. Leslie, please give us an update of what you know.
Grace and peace, everyone. We were just here at the Minneapolis City Hall, a place that many of you have seen us stand time and time again. We were there in 2020 after Brother George Floyd was murdered. And I said that it was said then in 2020 that it was a state of emergency. And now it's even more of a state of an emergency, right? George's daughter and her husband spoke at the press conference today, really emotionally about the fact that her 7-year-old and her other young child had to wake up this morning without their mom. And we talked about how our constitutional rights are under attack, that this is not a drill, this is not a joke. Donald Trump thinks that this is a TV show. And we need to really continue to stand up because we are all in danger when they start taking the journalists, when they start taking the reporters, when they start taking the truth tellers, we're all in jeopardy. And so there's a hearing at 1:30 for Georgia Ford right across the street. We're headed to the rally at 1 p.m. and then the hearings at 1:30. We have very limited information at this time, but I would tell people to just, keep watching local media outlets. I'll keep reporting all day. And it also is not a coincidence that there is another national strike right now today that's happening. They're just trying to distract us and target us. And then also two other So Trayvon Cruz is a well-known organizer in Minnesota. Also notably, I'm a Bush Fellow. George is a Bush Fellow. Trayvon Cruz is a Bush Fellow. And then Jamel Lundy, who we were in law school at the same time in Black Law Student Associations at the same time. He's a local attorney, works at the Hennepin County Prosecutor's Office. He is running for office right now. There's supposed to be caucus next week. This is just very targeted. It's very strategic. As Brother Resma said, it's very systemic. And, I talked to Georgia a lot. You all got a chance to meet and talk with Georgia when you all were in town. And, she was worried that she was going to get arrested. And I kept telling her, well, they can't arrest Don Lemon. They can't arrest you. You know what I mean? You all are journalists. You all are protected with our constitutional rights. And y'all were just reporting and telling the truth. And then they got Don Lemon and Georgia Ford. And so it's just heartbreaking. It's devastating. And this should be a major wake up call that none of us can stay silent. None of us can stay complicit. And then also, you all know, a year ago, almost to this date, Nikema Levy-Armstrong, Jaylani, Monique, they stood in front of Target headquarters saying that we need to boycott. Georgia Ford used to have contracts with Target. They stopped funding her. It's important to connect all of this of the corporations have abandoned us. The churches are abandoning us. Where is that church that they went into? Why are they not saying release Georgia Ford and Don Lemon, right? Why are they not speaking up saying nobody was hurt, no property was even damaged? Why are we more concerned with these people speaking truth to power if we remember about Renee Nicole Good than we are? Because those officers still have not been arrested. Nobody's been held accountable for Renee or Alex killing, right? But yet we want to hold peaceful protesters and journalists accountable. We should all be outraged.
That's real.
I really appreciate you joining us. Leslie, I know you are actively organizing right now, so we will hopefully follow up again with you later. Thank you so much for streaming the press. Go ahead, AG.
And no, I just said both poignant points made. I don't know if Dr. Resma is still with us or if he's if he's left us.
I did not bye Resma. Come back, Resma.
I just want to. It was what he said is prescient. Oof. It's also terrifying. Mm-hmm. But we have to hear the difficult news. He talked about us not just preparing for an emergency, right? Not organizing for the exceptional moment that is happening in society. He's saying we have to create a new normal. Our new normal in the environment that we have right now with a lawless federal government treading on the rights of individuals, treading on the rights of states, treading on the rights of journalists to simply bear witness and report what you see. The point around them going after journalists before they go after murderers.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not a tagline, though. That's real. Yeah. The same agency that has refused to investigate Renee Good's killing, right? The Department of Justice would not allow the Civil Rights Division to open an investigation against the lawless killing of her or of Alex, is the same goddamn entity that decided they had the time to go to a federal judge, to be denied by that federal judge, to then go to a federal appeals court to then be denied by that federal appeals court. No, you cannot arrest them. I will not sign an arrest warrant for them. To then go and panel in somewhere America, Minnesota or elsewhere, a grand jury. And by the way, are they going to tell us how many grand juries they impaneled before they got an arrest warrant? Are they going to be transparent and say whether or not they were refused by a grand jury before they found one that would issue an indictment? Did they tell the truth? And by the way, we don't even have to query ourselves about whether or not they told the truth, because all we have to look is that pastor's prologue, that what they have told the American people at every turn has been a lie. Don't believe our lying eyes. Yeah, right.
I think you're so right on so many points, AG. I've always said that so long as the Department of Justice, air quotes, is in the J. Edgar Hoover building, we will be so far from actual justice. I want to pull up Attorney General Bondi's tweet about Don Lemon earlier, and Jamel Lundy and Georgia Fort and Traherne Cruz. And I want to get your reaction to this, Andrew. At my direction, early this morning, federal agents arrested Don Lemon, Traherne Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamel Lydell Lundy in connection with the coordinated attack. Listen to the words. With the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. This was 6:09 a.m. Eastern this morning, January 30th, 2026. She says more details soon. Andrew, what's your reaction to the Attorney General using Twitter as a space for her to report out that they have arrested 4 people in connection to a church protest? 2 of those people we know for a fact were reporting out. Don said that right here on the show, and we'll play that clip in a moment too.
It's a shame that we have to refer to her as the Attorney General.
Damn shame.
It's a shame that she gets the moniker of somebody, of a title that we actually are supposed to have some degree of faith in, some belief in. We know that it hasn't been fair to us always. In fact, in instances where it has been fair to us, I would consider that an exception to the rule. But she's so lawless. She is the queen of lawlessness right now. And I don't believe a thing that comes out of their mouths, Angela. I don't believe anything. Her tweets to me are lies. The word selection is deliberate, but I also saw that there were 3 million likes or something like that underneath that her statement, her post.
That point.
And I think one of the things that a lot of us are not paying attention to is the fact that their lawlessness also has a constituency.
Right.
That there are people in our communities, people we work with, that we live in neighborhoods with, that we are in social organizations with, who are cheerleading what they're doing. I understand that the polling, by and large, is not necessarily popular, but there's a constituency for their lawlessness. And when that extreme right-wing return to white America constituency thought that Donald Trump was going to pull up on his efforts in Minnesota, they got loud. They didn't get loud to us. They got loud to the White House through their leaders and their organizations. They got loud with the chiefs of staffs and all those special advisors that the president has. And they said, hold up. Yeah. We told you, we sent you here for this. Complete the mission. And that's why Donald Trump has backtracked yet again. And that's why Pam Bondi had to turn their ire toward him. And by the way, just ... and you can then take the mic. Epstein files 3 million documents released today, right? A document dump on a Friday, and also on the Friday that they choose to arrest people in our community who we care deeply about, and they do it lawlessly. So let's not forget, there are a lot of moving parts and pieces here. There's a lot that this administration has to distract the American people from. So we have to move with our eyes wide open. And increasingly, our eyes and our mouths and our feet walking and our hands working, we have to, this is when we throw our shoulders to the wheel. Yeah. Because if we don't, we ain't gonna have no goddamn wheel to throw a shoulder to.
There's that. And speaking of that, look at this tweet too, Andrew. I just had it up. Okay, thank you. I'm very happy. This is Matt Walsh. another alleged church white supremacist. I'm very happy that Don Lemon was arrested, but there is one extremely important caveat now that it's been done. He has to be convicted and sent to prison for an extended length of time. If he is not convicted or not seriously punished, then this whole thing is an unequivocal win for him. It makes him a martyr and 10 times more famous with no significant consequence. Lemon was totally irrelevant prior to this. Not true. Donald Trump was tweeting about Don before this. Nobody watched his show or even knew that he was still alive. This is inflammatory. Now he's relevant again. He'll almost certainly get another job in cable news on the heels of this. The only way to make this a win for the good guys, I wonder who the good guys are in his mind, is to punish him severely, correct? Make the reward of fame and martyrdom not worth the cost. If you won't do that, then you never should have arrested him. As you know, Andrew, we had Don on with us as a guest co-host just this week. I just want to roll this clip really quick because I know we got a hard out at 1:30 your time.
Minutes, yeah.
Roll this clip.
Yes, I was there reporting, and I don't even know the name of the church. I don't even know
Andrew.
the name of the pastor who was there, but I do know the name of the pastor who was alleged to be, and now has been confirmed by the church to be like I forget some sort of coordinating agent or something of ICE, a directing agent of ICE,
acting field director, David Easterwood.
Right, David Easterwood, and that he was a pastor in the church. And so that group said that they went there to protest that. I didn't even know what place they were going. It was an organization that people said were doing, they had sent out a flyer, and they were a protest group, and they had been protesting what was happening in Minneapolis. And I landed in Minneapolis and said, sure, I'll follow them. I'll just go chronicle what they're doing. And so when I found out it was a church, I sat back for a bit and I said, let them do their thing. Did I know they were going to go in there? Of course they're going to go in there. That's what they do, or go in there or around the church. I wasn't sure if they were going to go inside or go around the church or whatever. I didn't know what their actions would be, but I knew that I wanted to report on it because that's part of what was happening that day. And so when they went into the church, I stood there and waited for a bit and waited. And I saw other members of the press going in. And so I walked in. When I saw when the unread, I walked in and just started talking. Look, there's chaos right there. They're chanting this. There are parishioners and church members over here who are upset. And let me go over and talk to the pastor. Pastor, how do you feel about this happening in the church? And then he did his thing. And I went over to some of the parishioners. I said, what do you feel about this? If they said they didn't want to talk, I said, I understand. And I moved on. And then I talked to afterwards the members of the group that had organized the protest. And that was it. I left. And then somehow I became somehow I became the face of it. I'm like, I'm not the face of it. I'm not a protester. And I kept saying to them, when people would say, why you guys, what do you, I said, sir, I'm not one of the protesters. I'm just here. I'm a journalist and I'm here reporting. Would you like to say something?
And we can cut it here. I want to, Andrew, I know that this is something that you would want to do in the spirit of my brother, who's very detail oriented. Let's actually throw to the clip where Don Lemon is interviewing the pastor.
Yeah.
What do you think of this? I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. But there were folks who will say, I have to take care of my flock. Okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest. Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ. I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me though. We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here. Yeah. Okay. That's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about. Don't you think Jesus would be understanding we're about and love these folks? We're about spreading the love of Jesus. But did you try to talk to them as a Christian? No one is willing to talk. Okay. I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building. You don't want us to chronicle whatever? You're here to worship. I'm always worship. I'm a Christian. We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I mean, he says repeatedly in the clip, Andrew, what he's there to do. He's documenting it. He's chronicling it. He asked the man to please take his hands off of him. AG, what's your reaction to that?
I mean, I think hopefully, first of all, I hope this case doesn't get any further than what we've seen up to this point. But should it go further? Hopefully, this will be evidence that as Don has said consistently while at the protest, because I went back to look at the live stream to see him. He's before he goes into the church, as he's outside again the church, one of the parishioners who is leaving the church because of the protest, says, I don't want to talk to you guys. He said, oh, I'm not a protester. I'm just chronicling what's happening. I'm a journalist. And then he proceeds to answer Don's question. And then they have a back and forth. So he's consistently said that he's there as a journalist. I don't even think that is in repute. What is crazy is that this indictment alleges that he was violently involved in holding that ground at the church, right? And I just can't wait to see the evidence. What are they going to produce as evidence to back up, to substantiate their having done this? But you know what? I don't have a real belief that it will go that far. And if it does, I believe he will emerge on the side of right. But I think all of this is done for the theater. I don't think they care whether or not, they're going to disappoint that man whose post we just put up, who made my point, right? Which was there's a constituency out there who are 1,000% behind what this administration is doing, what this regime is doing. And we heard one of the voices there, but I think they're going to be sorely disappointed because to prosecute this man is a violation of the Constitution. They are selective about the application of the Constitution in this country, who gets to exist under the banner of it and who doesn't.
Selected, definitely.
But it's going to be hard for any person to turn away their eyes and act like this didn't happen or that it happened differently than what we're witnessing.
I'm so grateful for what you're saying, Andrew. It's just like a mind-blowing reminder of where we are and versus where we should be. We have hopefully soon the statement from Don Lemon's lawyer, Abby Lowell, who's a legend, and what he said in response to Don's arrest. If we don't have that yet, we can end with that. But I do want to play this clip too of Georgia Fort speaking to us, because you're not just like about being Ida B. Wells of today. Absolutely. So what drives you to keep, because you're not just like reporting on it from videos you're seeing online, you're going to the heart of the protest. You're going to the heat of the action. What is driving you to be at ground zero in spite of that fear?
We cannot be neutral about the dismantling of our democracy and still expect to be protected by it. We cannot allow our fear to paralyze us to the point where we decide to do nothing, that we just become spectators and then just live with the consequence of whatever this administration is doing. And so I am activated by my ancestors. I feel like I stand on the shoulders of Ida B. Wells, who documented lynchings. That was probably extremely controversial at her time. I imagine that because she had such a narrow focus and because she decided to tell the stories of people who are lynched and their families and not so much so of the people who are lynching them, she was probably accused of not being objective and being an activist and probably all the same things that I hear. But it did not prevent her from continuing to do that documentation, which now fast forward years later is extremely essential to us understanding that era. It is extremely essential because of the continued attempts to erase our history. I stand on the shoulders of David Jackson, the photographer who took the horrific image of Emmett Till, which touched the hearts, the minds, and the souls of so many white Americans and activated them to do something. And so I understand the power of media and the power of storytelling. And if I allow my fear to paralyze me, then I feel like they have won. I feel like in 20 years, we won't have an accurate reflection of what is happening. And I think it's essential because you mentioned this like in your opening. This administration has a history of lying. So who is going to be the archivist of this moment? Who is going to gather the truth and hold it so that future generations can have it?
So prescient.
Accurate reflection really like.
Prescient.
So Andrew, as we get ready to sign off,
Angela, before we go, I just want to say a lot of people have listened to different, we'll hear a clip from Don Lemon and they'll say, well, he's got an opinion. Listen, journalists are allowed to have if you are confused about whether or not journalists can be can have opinions and perspectives and lenses by which they see things. I don't know a journalist who doesn't have a lens by which they see the world. And so if you are looking at clips that show him expressing an opinion that does not remove from him the designation of a journalist, he still has the credentials, the background, and considers himself a journalist and allows equal forum for all sides, period.
Yeah. I want to pull this statement up from Don's attorney, Abby Lowell, and I will read it for the folks who are listening and not watching, or who will listen and didn't watch. My eyes are bad, Nick. Help assist out. The magistrate's reported actions confirmed the nature. That's so rude. That's not that bad, Nick. Of Don's First Amendment protected work this weekend in Minnesota as a reporter. It was no different than what he has done for more than 30 years, reporting and covering newsworthy events on the ground and engaging in constitutionally protected activity as a journalist. Should the Department of Justice continue with the stunning and troubling effort to silence and punish a journalist for doing his job, Don will call out their latest attack on the rule of law and fight any charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. This is actually the first statement, so I pulled the wrong one. But here's what we know. Andrew, our work is far from over. As we continue to get information throughout the day, hopefully the three of us can rejoin and bring back our friends, our allies in Minnesota, and really make sure that we raise attention. Right now, Andrew, you've always been my favorite person to tell me what is required of us in this moment. So I would just ask you, in the spirit of always doing great calls to actions, what you would ask calls to action. Young people, our elders, people at home who aren't in Minnesota but want to do something. What is the thing that you will recommend we all do now?
First of all, we all have voices. Whether I mean that literally, you can speak, or whether it's in your writing, whatever we can do. If we are sitting silent right now, waiting for this thing to come up our block, y'all, it's in the house.
Yeah.
It is in the house. We don't have to wait for our neighborhood, our street, our driveway. It is in the house. They are challenging the very basic fundamentals of this society that we consider a democracy. And I think what's become most apparent to me right now, Angela, in this time is how much this democracy relied on our belief in a subscription to a set of ideals, not necessarily codified in law. Not necessarily. I mean, in this case, we've got a lot of it written down in law. It's called the Constitution and the first 10 amendments, the Declarations of Independence, and so on and so forth. But so much of it requires an action from us to be preserved, right? That's why Benjamin Franklin said, we give you a republic if you can keep it. The if you can keep it part is right now. If we're going to keep this thing, we have to raise our voices right now to the illegality that's taking place in relation to, yes, these journalists, but across the whole system. They are coming for us. We know what's happening in Georgia and the taking of those ballots. That's, a little bit about relitigating 2020, but it's mostly about 2026 and 2028 and the elections that come after, right? They want to stifle the ability for us to get access to that. This fight is everywhere. If you are waiting for it to come up your block, it's already in your house. It's on fire. And we all have to get a hose, right? We all got to put our shoulder to the wheel right now. I'm so anxious about this because I'm going to be researching the recesses of my mind around what more.
Yes.
Right? What more? And if you are feeling like you're not doing enough, you're probably right. Do more. And maybe some of that doing more means enlisting others to join you. But the sidelines, if you own it, all right.
I'm going to tell you this, brother. The one thing, again, that I know, you've come up with some of the most creative responses to these kinds of attacks that I know of. So please tell me if there's something that you need me to do to help amplify whatever strategy you got. You know, I'm 10 toes down for you always.
In this together, friend.
I know.
All of us.
Yes, indeed. So with that, we actually do have Abby Lowell's latest statement. We're going to read that as we go out. Please remember, even though we're reading the statement from Don Lemon's attorney, Georgia Fort, our dear sister, journalist extraordinaire, Emmy Award-winning journalist at that in Minnesota, was also arrested this morning in front of her children inside of her home. Also, Trayern Cruz, a Bush Foundation fellow who is the co-founder of Black Lives Matter. You can put the statement back up. And Jamel Lundy, an attorney who's running for office, who, of course, they are trying to stifle. Don Lemon, this is a statement from Abby Lowell for those listening. Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents last night in Los Angeles, where he was covering the Grammy Awards. Don has been a journalist for 30 years, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he has always done. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. There is no more important time for people like Don to be doing this work. Instead of investigating the federal agents who killed two peaceful Minnesota protesters, the Trump Justice Department is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest, and that is the real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. This unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing this administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. I want to remind our listening audience that the charges against these individuals include the 1871 KKK Act, and then Section 18 USC Code, Section 248, 18 USC 248, freedom of access to clinic entrances. If you go back to listen to our podcast with Don, we talked about the FACE Act, which was a bill that was sponsored by the late Senator Ted Kennedy. And what it is really about, you will see that neither 18 USC Section 248 and neither 18 USC Section 241 apply. Section 241 is the KKK Act. These do not apply here. These charges will not stand. Hopefully they go before judges with good intention who can actually read and interpret and apply the law. Until then, welcome home, y'all.
Welcome home.
Nobody knows the troubles I've seen. Welcome home to
Once again, ladies and gents, credits and kudos to Native Land Pod. If you're not a subscriber to them, go ahead on your social medias, subscribe to everything that they do, because they do a great work, ladies and gents. I was just thinking here, drinking my wine and think about, and then there's certain things that there are double standards, ladies and gents. That's exactly what it is, okay? There's the Republicans and the MAGAs that before they claim about the Constitution, no, let's respect the Constitution, let's respect the state rights, let's respect the Second Amendment, let's do this and that. But when the thing flips, they forget about that. You know, and one thing they was saying exactly right there, the Andrew said there's some constituent that is loving all this hot mess that's going on in the country. You know, I pay attention to what's going on social media, and I see, you know, the only thing that I do is the reaction of some people. For instance, Facebook want to have the killing of Miss Good, and now Mr. Pretty, you know, they got shot. There's a whole lot of people laughing, you know. And like this, the emojis that they put is laughing. The young boy that was arrested by ICE, a lot of people laughing. And I pay attention, I just look at the faces of 95% of these people that are laughing they're white people. And second of all this fake Christian. But it's going to get to the point, ladies and gents. I told that this many times before on my podcast. For those that are new to my podcast, go back to watch all the videos. That's one thing that's going to happen, because this life is temporary, ladies and gents. Even though if you can live 300 years, if you can live that long, it is nothing compared to eternity. I said that many times. This place here on this earth is temporary. It's a passage that you're born, we live, and we all going to die. And at the end of the time, once you're gone, your body is not ashes, you will give account for the great power. So all these people that are laughing about the killing the innocent people, the mistreatment of immigrants, all that, they call themselves Christians, and Jesus was very clear about how to take care of the foreigners, how to take care of the widow, the poor, the elder, the children. But you go into the church that the guy that was there as the pastor is working for ICE. And he's like, and those things say that MAGA has a definitely selected mind when it comes to the Constitution, because when everything's for them, it's fine. Now, if it serve their purpose, whatever ideology or whatever, it's the Constitution. But one thing that's completely different, they apply to everybody, or now they're against. Like this stupid ass FBI director say, if you show up with your protest with a gun, how many protests they have the MAGA and the people show up in Wisconsin, Minneapolis, all these people, places they show up with guns. That young man Kyle something that killed somebody and then was crying like fake cry in court. He was there with a gun. So like I say, they claim the Second Amendment, but now that the guy showed up with a gun and don't shoot nobody, but not being killed for protecting a white woman, that now all of a sudden now it's a problem to show up with the protest now. But before nobody say anything about it. And one thing to keep going to, my two things that keep going now on my over and over and over. Number one is the French Revolution, because they pushed it out there. All the elite, all these people, the bourgeoisie, the bourgeois people, all these people, the Trump administration keep pushing the people. And one day, they're going to be accountable for everything that they are doing right now. And the second thing about to do all these ICE people is what happened on the Nazi and the Gestapo. I'm just following orders, right? Quote unquote following orders. But it's going to get the point, homeboy, that you will give account. Justice is going to come and knock at your door. And I hope, I saw that I think it's in Minnesota, there's some election now they are changing. And it's a wake-up call for people to have this. I'm tired right now. I've told this many times. This election in November is imperative for you to talk to your people, your family, friends, to register to vote. If they want to have a decent country for everybody. Now, if you don't care about it, that was in the barbershop on top talking about it. I have two barbers that know I don't vote, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, it's a political thing. So until hell break loose and something happened in the election, then now they decide to go after barbers. And then when they lose the way they make their money, all they're going to think about election, but that's too late now. The same thing too, the people that not voted, I saw that before. The doggone keyboards for Trump now being deported left and right here in Florida. The farmers, they're now losing everything. But they all vote for Republicans and vote for Trump. So once you get to the point and now you lost everything, it's going to be too late. But we try to tell you. So this election, if you're not satisfied with what's going on in this country right now, you better vote. You better vote for Democrats. Because I agree with 100% what I think the Democrat Party does? No, I don't. But that's the only way to go back to normalcy. That you can have the right to debate, agree to disagree. But right now, it's just completely insane. No, they are this Trump administration is violating everything. So I don't want to hear nothing from any MAGA, any Republicans that say talk about the Constitution, because when it's time for you to stand up and do what's right, you coward. You kept your mouth shut. So I hope you like this video, ladies and gents. I appreciate it. Once again, go to Native Land Pod, subscribe, or everything else. I'm going to give the link. The link is going to be right here on the description of this YouTube channel. Subscribe to everything that they do, because they do a great, great job. All right? So once again, ladies and gents, please be safe, be kind, and be best, and do the best what you can do with to God. Salute. And I'll see you next Saturday, the first Saturday of February, with the Black History Month, with some good videos. I will bring to this podcast. All right. Holla.
Holding my down, sucker rappers get lost. Coming from the bottom, moving straight to the top.